dual N-back brain exercise, boosting working memory and fluid intelligence. If the memory palace was about storage and retrieval, this lecture is about processing power. The dual N-back exercise is arguably the most scientifically validated high-intensity cognitive calisthenic for your brain. It directly targets two of the most critical aspects of sharp thinking: working memory and fluid intelligence. This is where we move from low-resistance memory practice to a high-resistance focus drill that will dramatically increase your capacity to handle complex information, analyze novel problems, and maintain intense focus under load. The vast majority of our mental struggles, from following a complex conversation to planning a multi-step project, come down to a capacity crisis in working memory. Working memory is essentially your brain's temporary mental workspace. It's where you actively hold and manipulate information. It has a notoriously limited capacity, famously identified as the 7 ± 2 rule. When you exceed that capacity, say by trying to remember a new phone number while simultaneously calculating a tip, your entire cognitive system bogs down. The consequence is not just poor memory, but a collapse of focus and a severe drop in the quality of your logical thinking. Why does this matter? Because everything we do, from learning to problem solving, relies on this workspace. The why behind the why is that without targeted exercise, your working memory remains static, perpetually limiting your ability to process complexity. The dual N-back is a task that forces your brain to monitor two separate streams of information simultaneously, usually the position of a square on a grid and the sound of a letter, and decide if the current stimulus matches the one presented. N steps back. This is not rote memory. It's continuous, active maintenance and updating of information under pressure. Our significant mythbuster here challenges the long-held belief that fluid intelligence, or your raw ability to reason and solve novel problems, is fixed after childhood. The fact is that several studies on N-back training have demonstrated a measurable, transferable increase in fluid intelligence scores in participants. Why is this transferable? Because the exercise strengthens the central executive of your brain, which is the system that governs all selective attention and cognitive control. You are teaching your brain to allocate its resources more efficiently, which benefits every challenging task you face. The intensity of the dual N-back yields three exceptional superpowers. First, boosted fluid intelligence. This is the single most valuable benefit. Fluid intelligence is your ability to quickly analyze new situations, recognize patterns, and think abstractly, independent of any acquired knowledge. Why is this a superpower? Because it makes you better at learning anything new, giving you a massive advantage in our rapidly changing world. Second, you gain superior distraction inhibition. Since you're forced to hold and update information while ignoring the continuous, non-matching stimuli, you dramatically strengthen your brain's attentional filtering gate. The why behind that why is that you're training the neural structures responsible for ignoring the noise so that only the signal gets processed. Third, you achieve increased task switching efficiency. Your brain learns to rapidly load and unload information from its working memory, reducing the mental cost and fatigue associated with pivoting between demanding tasks throughout your day. Success in the dual N-back requires a strategic cognitive approach, not brute force. We call this the STAR method. Step 1 is S, spatial anchor. For the position stream, you must visualize a physical anchor for each location on the grid. Don't just look at it, feel the square. Step 2 is T, tonal loop. For the sound stream, you should sub-vocalize or mentally repeat the letter sound as it occurs, keeping it in your inner auditory loop. Step 3 is A, active comparison. When a new stimulus appears, your brain must actively compare it against the NBAC item, essentially freezing and holding that memory for comparison. The how within the how is recognizing the interference between the two streams. When the visual and auditory memories conflict, your prefrontal cortex is being maximally taxed. Step 4 is R, reduce N level, the critical guardrail. If you fail more than 3 times in a row, immediately reduce the N level, e.g. from 3 back to 2 back. This maintains the appropriate cognitive load, ensuring you stay in the optimal zone for plasticity. Let's immediately jump into a high-intensity simulation of the dual NBAC using a simplified 2-back challenge. The goal is to establish the S spatial anchor and the T tonal loop working together at an N level of 2. First, quickly draw a 3x3 grid on your paper. Second, for the next 5 minutes, you will track 2 simple streams. Position, P, the location of a mentally moving object, and color, C, the perceived color of that object. The task is to call out match only if the current position or color matches the one presented 2 steps back. For example, if the current location is top left, you compare it to the top left location that occurred 2 steps ago. This forces your brain to hold and update 5 pieces of information simultaneously: the current P and C, the 1-back P and C, and the critical 2-back P and C. Pause the video and try it now. Dedicate your full 5 minutes to this intense tracking. If you found yourself momentarily mixing up the 2 streams, perhaps confusing the 2-back color with the 1-back position, you were experiencing the drill's main mechanism, the interference effect. This is where older working memories actively tried to disrupt the storage of new information. Why is this resistance crucial for neuroplasticity? Because it directly forces your brain to develop more robust, isolated mental registers for each stream of information. The how behind the how is that you must learn to create separate, isolated mental folders for the position stream and the color stream, managing them as 2 independent variables in the same mental workspace. The ability to do this is called attentional disengagement, the capacity to rapidly shift your focus from one memory stream to the other without losing track of either. The dual NBAC is the cognitive equivalent of juggling 2 different colored balls, where you must track the trajectory of each independently, increasing your overall resource allocation efficiency. Now we increase the load, practicing the A-active comparison step under higher pressure. For this second 5-minute block, you will scale your effort to the 3-back challenge. The instructions remain the same, but the match criteria shifts. You must now call out match if the current stimulus matches the one presented 3 steps back. This is a significant jump. You are now holding 4 pieces of information in your active memory for each stream: the current, the 1-back, the 2-back, and the 3-back. The active comparison step is more crucial now than ever. You must mentally isolate the 3-back item and superimpose it over the current item for a rapid comparison. This effort is the resistance training for your working memory. Pause the video now and try it. Remember the R reduce N level rule if the load becomes overwhelming. If you successfully tackled the three back, you were working at the cutting edge of your current working memory capacity. The feeling of the three back information slipping away before you could compare it is the precise signal that your central executive network is being intensely challenged. This network, involving the prefrontal cortex and the anterior cingulate cortex, is the air traffic controller of your entire mind. Why does challenging this network matter? Because it is responsible for all higher-level functions, including planning and error detection. Strong executive control means you are less likely to experience the everyday problem of forgetting to remember something. The contrast is key. Poorly done is allowing the one back and two back information to distract you. Well done is aggressively isolating only the three back memory and using it for the comparison. This deliberate mental isolation is what truly sharpens your brain's processing speed and resilience against overload. It is time for our final high-effort recall exercise. Pause the video and retrieve the answers to these three critical questions about the dual N-back. Welcome back. Let's review the deep knowledge. The specific myth busted by the N-back research is that fluid intelligence, IQ, is fixed after childhood. The N in N-back refers to the number of steps back you must compare, and the two streams tracked are typically position and sound, or color in our simulation. The S in the STAR method stands for spatial anchor. Now, perform one final retrieval for the three answers without looking at the screen. The myth is that fluid intelligence is fixed. N is the number of steps back, and the streams are position and sound. S is spatial anchor. Phenomenal work. The grand conclusion from this lecture is that consistent work at the edge of your cognitive capacity is the only way to expand your working memory and boost your fluid intelligence. The dual N-back is the single best tool for this. You now have the full STAR method to approach this high-resistance brain exercise correctly. Your action plan is to integrate the N-back drill for 5 to 7 minutes daily into your 15-minute routine, always adhering to the R, reduce and level rule to maintain optimal cognitive load. By mastering this, you gain unstoppable processing power.